Rob Hargraves from the Energy Systems Catapult, and he'll bring us up to date on work that the Catapult and Rob are doing in the area of home decarbonization skills academy. Rob, over to you.
Thanks very much, Eric. It's great to be here today to be able to talk to everyone at what is a very exciting time to be working on domestic retrofit, which might seem like an oxymoron to some people, but unbelievably, there are people out there who don't find energy efficiency particularly interesting, which is part of the challenge that we face. When, if you look at the column inches that are written about the journey to net zero and the challenges, I think only 3% of those inches talk about energy efficiency as one of the key things that we need to be looking at. So the tide is starting to turn, and we're seeing a lot of activity now, which is fantastic. But I just echo, almost everything that Russell was talking about, really, that the action needs to be coordinated, and there can't be any gaps in the customer journey if we're going to make the kind of progress that we need to. I started at Catapult just before Christmas. My background, I used to work at 7Y Energy Agency, leading the team, providing energy advice, working to eradicate fuel poverty. And so I had quite a bit of experience working with funders and contractors on domestic retrofit, so well aware of the issues that can be caused by a lack of skills at any point in the customer journey. So if we move on, Catapult has been working over the past 12 or 18 months talking to stakeholders, getting feedback on the main challenges and the gaps that exist in the retrofit skills sector. And it's similar to the challenges that have already been identified and talked about, so I won't spend too long going through these again, but the kind of three main challenges that were identified is the quantity or the scale of the work that needs to be done over the next 5 to 10 years, assuring the quality is done to a very high standard, and then taking into account the complexity of the domestic retrofit journey for people. So starting with the quantity or the scale, we've already, people have touched on this already today, but just to kind of put things in perspective, 25 million homes to be decarbonised by 2050 works out at roughly 5 homes per minute. And in terms of the jobs, I've just got some more figures here across the entire sector, including energy advisors that are needed, retrofit coordinators. So we're looking at, well over 1 million jobs needed by 2050. In terms of the quality that we need to see, I think previous schemes have taught us that schemes can be very quickly derailed if the quality of the work isn't assured and isn't there. So we've seen it time and time again. The financing of domestic retrofit across the country is one thing, but if the quality of the workmanship and the quality of the advice that's given to the householders isn't there, then things can very quickly go wrong. And that kind of key message that Russell mentioned as well, the trust and the confidence of consumers can very quickly get damaged, and then we'll see the take-up start to be reduced. PAS 2035 obviously has been brought in, and that's a great framework to assure the standards are being upheld, but it can be quite a complex and confusing process, even for people within the industry. So you can imagine for householders the difficulties that they might have in managing their retrofit journey, especially when new technologies are coming along, innovative solutions are coming into the market. Customers need to be given clear, accessible and impartial advice on their retrofit journey, as well as that kind of encouragement and confidence to make the right decisions. Again, it's been touched on, but at the moment, the customer journey can be very confused, to say the least. It can depend very much on each household's circumstances, where they come into the domestic retrofit journey, where they live in the country. But very often they can go through a process where they might not get any impartial advice at all, depending on the work that's being done in the property. So a little bit like what Russell was talking about, we're looking at that kind of that role to be consistent and nationwide, where you have someone acting on behalf of the householder, so an advocate, if you like, or a home energy advisor that can really coordinate all parts of the journey. And that advisor would have the kind of technical skills to be able to make a retrofit assessment, but also those softer skills that we're talking about in terms of the customer engagement, looking after vulnerable consumers, the soft skills that are needed to handhold the customer through the process. So one of the things that we've been looking at is a kind of a mix of national and regional assets. And I guess the key word here as we move forward is the fact that this work needs to be coordinated. You know, there's no point having the financing there to be able to do the work if there isn't quality advice, if there isn't customer engagement, if there isn't the skills within the workforce to be able to carry out that work to a high standard. So here, if we start with the national assets, that's where we're looking at the roles, the retrofit coordinators, the installers, the advice to be kind of coordinated at national level so that you can manage the quality levels, make sure things are being done to a high standard across the board there, providing tools for people to be able to do their jobs, and that being available at a national level to everyone across all the regions. And then in terms of the regional assets, looking at the kind of incubators to help new companies, learning factories where people can get the training and the qualifications, and then also that kind of customer engagement role that needs to be carried out at the same time, so that we have the demand and supply coming forward together. So we've been working with 6 pilot regions, LEPs, getting feedback on some of these kind of regional assets. But as people have been talking about, the time has to be now that this work starts to be rolled out across the country in a coordinated manner, so that every local authority area, every LEP area can take advantage of this kind of coordinated approach where supply and demand come together alongside the high quality of workmanship. So some of the other things that we've been doing, we're involved in the Institute of Apprenticeship Technical Education panels and the PAS 2035 steering board, and we're looking at proposals around how we can get these kind of regional hubs and these national assets financed. But I think, you know, for us that key message of coordination is really important, so that it doesn't depend on where you live or what your circumstances are. Everyone is going to be able to access a smooth and straightforward customer journey. So I welcome if everyone has any thoughts on this at all, to please get in touch with me and let us know your feedback on some of those ideas. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Rob. And I guess there were 2 or 3 ideas I took from your comments. One is the reference to complexity, which I think we'd agree what we're trying to achieve in either at the local level or the national level is very complex, with smart local energy systems as a particular example of one of the interventions that we're trying to make. You also raised the point of urgency. We need to get on with this. We haven't got a lot of time, so we need to build the people skills and literacy assets that are needed to move us forward. And you also raised, quite importantly, I think, the benefit of coordination and consistency across the landscape for making this happen. So thanks very much for your comments.